When you're ready. Good. So real quick on the minutes, other than changing line 13 to read Town Manager Burbank called the meeting to order. Did anybody else see any other changes? Perfect. We're not going to bother with it in a second. It's a committee and minutes don't have to be approved. I mean, good policy, but they're all set. Al, I don't know if you read through the minutes that we kind of volunteered you to be chair of the committee. How do you
Yes.
feel?
I'll accept it.
Perfect. Sweet. So I will then, you have a copy of the agenda, yes?
Yes, I do.
And I'm going to turn this meeting over to our chairman. Thank you, Ms. Pullen.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Now, I've only run a couple meetings, so if I'm out of order, somebody let me know for sure. Call the meeting to order. Approximately, what time is it? 3:02?
Close enough. Yep.
Hi, Butch.
How are you?
Good.
Al? Good.
The second item is to appoint the building committee chairperson.
That's you.
That's you. We just did that.
Okay.
All in agreement? I don't see anybody clamoring to take your place, so I think you're in.
I accept.
And John Hettinger is your vice chair. So if you can't make it, John will take over for a meeting if that's the case.
Beautiful. Item 3, review examples of other municipality buildings, municipal buildings. Chief Morris and Chief Beard to present examples. Chief Beard?
I didn't get to that portion yet. I'll have to do that at the next meeting. And
Chief Morris?
Am I present here? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I went online and pulled up some examples, as well as I have one example that I collected from Canaan. While I was doing this and looking at stuff, it came to light that it's really hard to look at plans when you're really not sure, based on your strengths or weaknesses or what you need. So you could infinitely look at designs. And of course, my personality is if I've got too many choices on the shelf, I'll be standing there for a long time making a decision. So I think it's more important to assess as a group what we're looking at, what we need. If it's going to be a town, police, fire, or just fire, I don't know. I think we need to kind of narrow it down a little bit before we can move forward. And obviously, any thoughts would be great from anybody here.
Butch, what is your idea of this committee, the study committee?
I think Chad touched on it. That was going to be one of my talking points today. Was my suggestion to the committee is decide in what scope. We know the PD's overcrowded. We know the fire in a few years, certainly 2 to 5 years, is going to need space for personnel. But is the town hall, does it meet? So are we really talking about a whole new town complex? Or are we talking about just moving police and fire? Because that conversation alone will determine what scope that the committee should be looking at today. I mean, there are probably going to be committees to come, but so if we're looking for a new complex, then our efforts should be to justify that, A, and B, I think, get examples of where literally we aren't reinventing the wheel. We can drive close by and see town hall, police, fire stations in one complex, maybe not attached, but on one piece of property, or we want to leave town hall right here, upgrade this building for a myriad of things and go that route. So that's my thought. I don't know, for the residents living here, obviously, I don't know the scope of what this entails, or where do we want to take this?
So how was this committee, who came up with the idea to formulate this committee
I think the Board of Selectmen wanted
Okay.
citizen involvement. They wanted citizen involvement in any decision. Not just the staff and BOS suddenly having a warrant article for a building with no citizen input. So I think that we're really at the beginning, the very early stages of what probably is going to be a year to 2 year process if it goes that far. This could end in a couple of meetings. You know, all could say, you guys are fine where you are and we'll just spend money keeping the building going the way it is. So I think that's my view, Al.
Okay, I know, we all know, I think we can all agree the police department needs a new facility. Are we all in agreement there?
Definitely.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
And also, the fire department needs to upgrade because in the future here, I think the fire department will have full-time staff. And the chief will need his, you know, his office over there. And you never know if the EMS service will be transferred over there sometime in the future. I think we need to look at this building from, you know, from 5 years from now, 60, 70 years from now. I mean, it's probably the only structure. I think we also need to look at the availability of the pieces of property and the size of the property that we have available. Do we have enough property to fire, police, town hall, or do we just have enough property for fire and police? I think that's one of the things we can look at.
My sense of that today is the piece of, the airport property is probably big enough for a police fire complex. You add a town hall into that. We have a piece of land across Mansion Hill that if Mansion Hill went the way it was designed, the two pieces of property put together would be big enough for
Okay,
a town hall complex.
so my question is, the original Mansion Hill property came straight off Pollard Road at 90-degree angle, correct?
Yes, come right down the hill, right up. That's my understanding. It was before I got here.
Yeah.
Ron knows about it, yeah.
Yeah,
And then
it-
Go ahead, Ron.
the original entrance basically it came out to, oh God, what's his name? Tammy's parents' house,
Edmond,
Edmond's.
Jeanette's, yeah.
Didn't it, Jim, you probably remember that, right? It used to come down there and then they relocated it.
Right directly across from Edmond's second driveway as you're going.
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Is that the one into the cabins
House?
or is that the one into the cabins or to
No,
now?
no, no.
the east side of Edmond's driveway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it probably
The one
shaved,
near-
it probably
the one near
shaved,
the front door.
yeah, it probably shaved a third of an acre by relocating it and making it a four-way when they moved it over.
Okay, so is it our best interest maybe to come up with a game plan, maybe move that street back where it originally was and
No,
have a much larger, or no?
no, that street was moved for safety reasons. It was brought to an intersection for safety reasons. And we can't put it back like it was unsafe.
Well, I heard it was moved because Edmond didn't want headlights in his window. Is that true? That's what I heard. I don't know.
Knowing Edmond, I'm sure that spurred it, but there was a safety evaluation done on that prior to that being turned into a square intersection with a four-way.
Okay.
The piece on the left there, if you're going up Mansion Hill, the one beside the highway is 2.8 acres. The remaining piece that where it used to go, road used to go through is almost 2.5 acres. So we've got almost 5.5 acres total between the two. There's got to be something we can do with those pieces of land.
Yep.
The issue that with the town hall, I mean, we know we need a new police department. There's no question there. The fire department, I don't believe has got much longevity where it stands. Part of that is there's no room to expand to do anything. There's nowhere to go. The town hall has got so many issues that right now we have to decide whether we want to scrap it, sell it, use that money to offset a new building somewhere, somehow, and do something, or put a significant amount of money into the existing town hall building.
How much money are we talking, Tammy?
I'm not a builder, but I can tell you that the plans were not followed when it was built. The clerk of the works on the project did not do the job that needed to be done. The back stairs were never done. We had all kinds of space upstairs for storage, but no stairs to get there. The HVAC system was put up there with no access to it. What was it, 20 years ago now that it was built? We've got a 20-something-year-old HVAC system that needs overhauling.
And there was absolutely,
Sufficiently, it wasn't sufficiently insulated. So now we have heat loss, major heat loss pockets, they're calling them. The air handling system is not adequate. So the exchange of air is not healthy in the building. It's just, there's so many issues and problems, and we're out of space. We're out of space upstairs, they're out of space downstairs. If we move one or the other, then either the PD or the town hall could utilize both spaces. It doesn't fix the issues with the building. And those that I mentioned are just issues upstairs. Downstairs, there's a whole nother bucket full of issues to go. So, I mean, we're talking significant money. We're talking the hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring that building up to where it needs to be.
You could spend that easily just completing the sprinkler system. Currently, there's only 5 sprinkler heads, and that's
Right.
down in the PD. The rest of the building is not protected.
Right.
so
It
it was
wasn't-
scheduled to be sprinkled during the renovation in the 90s, just to catch everybody up, and the issues that Tammy talked about, but in one of the cost-saving measures, they never finished it, the sprinkler system upstairs, and they didn't put in stairs to the finished attic. They sheetrocked and taped a storage area, but there was no stairs to it, and I spent $30,000. 7 years later, putting in a set of, we pulled walls apart and got a set of stairs so we could use it for storage.
And
It would
Those are
seem
the two
it's-
big things is that the town hall parking, business parking is a problem. It's the way it was configured is the majority of the parking out here is available for use by businesses in town. As we've gotten busier, we've had occasions when people come in just for town hall business, there's no parking spots. To the point where I did ask the BOS to approve another handicap parking because there was times people needed handicap to do town business. There wasn't because the Chinese restaurant or the Korean restaurant, whatever it is, and Flapjacks were eating up the parking space. So that's another issue, and that's there's no sprinkler. We have no town hall security system. The planning department is outgrown that. Now, it's true, if the PD left, we could expand into the downstairs for sure. But again, as Jeff and Chad will tell you, there's issues down there with the rodents and insulating and air quality issues, et cetera, and all of it can be addressed. But regardless of what we do to this building, that's stuff that's going to have to be done. There are 6 furnaces and air handling units in this small building, 6 of them, AC and heat throughout the building. And it absolutely boggles my mind. I mean, it's a good sized building, but 6 furnaces and why that was done, nobody knows. And we're in the process of replacing 1 or 2 of those a year as funds available. I've got $20,000 in the budget this year to replace 2 more of them. They're at the end of life. The condensers and stuff are rotting out. So the front door out here needs to be replaced. I just got a quote on that, 1 quote, but we'd get more obviously, but $13,000 to chisel that out of the concrete and put in a new steel, doors that are handicap accessible with panic button and all that, which are required in buildings. So we're gonna have to, in the years to come, we're gonna, you know, the town's gonna have to spend some serious money on this building if they want to keep it here on in Main Street. And I get it. I mean, it's historical. It's I'm sure it is popular, but if you're looking, you know, practicality, if you're gonna spend a few $1,000,000 to build a facility, it might be wise to move your town hall right along with it and then get as much money out of this property as you can, which everybody on this call knows is not going to go down in value. There's, you know, that's a fact. The energy upgrades, I'm in the process right now. COVID jumped in, but we started an energy audit in working with the co-op to come in and to identify, like we did with the community center, and they spray foamed and insulated that building. But we still cost us money, but the co-op does have grants, so we would be looking at that, but the building needs it. I and a couple of the officers, even today, I have to have a little electric heater running just to keep warm in this office. Even with the heat on, it's just not an efficient building. So that's about it. And one of the big things, and some of it could be covered by a sprinkler system, but all of the town, well, not all now, because we have moved some of the town historical records. We've rented space at the bank across the street, and we've moved some of the irreplaceable historical records. But our vault, we're here in Town Hall, is totally unprotected. Similar to what just happened in Jefferson. If this building goes down from a fire or emergency, you're going to lose God knows what. So that alone needs to be addressed. Now, can that be addressed downstairs in a concrete room? Converting the cell areas into a more fireproof? Sure, that could be done, but things like that need to be considered by today's standards. So that's just some of that. So I think, and I don't want to talk up the whole thing, but I think that the committee, the first decision of the committee would be to get a direction so that you're not wasting energy. Your energy's talking about 1 or 2 moves when you want to do 3, or talking about 3 and you really only want to move 1 or 2 of the departments. I think that would be the first, and that's just my opinion, the first decision that the committee should consider, because that'll give us all direction, where to go next. But so I'll
I
shut up.
think that what you need is a needs assessment. Each department needs to put down what are their needs to last another 20 years, if that's what you want to do. And maybe mark up some drawings of the existing facilities, what you need, how do you want to expand? And then we could start putting that all together. Do you want to do it in 2 sections? Do you want to do it as a whole?
I think we could do that. I've pretty much, the town hall, I just laid out to you today's needs. We could expand on each one of them a little more. I know the PD has got their needs. That's already been identified. Just put it in writing. And they may have it in writing. And Ron's is coming. We started asking for full-time folks, and that'll probably happen again next year and the year after. So it's just a matter of time because they're getting better. So I think we're there, John. Do we need to put it in writing? I think we need to get it documented in writing to the committee. But I think the decision is this building could still be used. It's going to be a cost benefit thing. Do you want to keep 1 or 2 of us here, or basically one of us here? Ron he's got an office here, but the fire department's in its own building. Get the PD out and just make use of this, and then spend whatever the number is to bring this building up to codes and health, standards by today's standards, and move in that direction. Or So I think we have broken it into 3 segments. We've identified police, we've identified fire, and they're not as in such a dire need. And then the town hall is its own thing, and obviously we'll continue to operate the way we are. It's just that, we still have to make these upgrades. So you're trying to get a new building for police and or fire, spending that money, and then, we're still gonna dump, I don't know, you can't even pick a number, $500,000 into this property to keep the town hall here. That's the town decision. There comes, I don't have the answer for that.
I think one of the good things, I think we should start with the facility with all 3 branches, the police, the fire, town hall to start with. And then as this evolves and we see we can't sustain that goal, we can always go back. It's harder to go forward. I think the other thing is there's certain parts of that building that could be utilized by all 3 departments, I think. If there was a common room, a common gathering room or a conference room big enough, if the PD needed it, the fire needed it, or if the town needed it for their board of selectmen meetings or the planning board meetings, that's a common area we could all use. And if we designed the building so that it was accessible from the private side and also from the police and fire side, I think it'd be a great advantage. To dump $500,000 or more money into a building that's, I don't know how many, 30, 40 years old, I think it's a waste of time myself. I think the people of Lincoln deserve, a facility off Main Street, so it's easier for them to access also. I mean, Pollard Road's a pretty common road. I think a lot of the older people and people, with the traffic and especially like a week like this, trying to get town hall, it's miserable. So that's my feeling. It's better to kind of like look up and say, yeah, let's go with a bigger building to start with and see what we're at, and always downsize, then start small and try working our way up. I think it's also the layout of the land. Do we know if that land out there has any hazardous conditions, materials?
No,
Has it been tested or anything, or?
That's probably the best land that the town owns in town of Lincoln, as far as ground quality. It's gravelly. Jim, and they live right across the street. I mean, that's probably the best land.
Right.
It's dry. There's no, to my knowledge, there's no drainage issues. The drainage issues go down between Jim's place, I think.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest advantages too is the fire and police can have access to 93 northbound. I can have a direct access to a state, contact state will take a couple years, but have a direct access northbound will get them on the highway that much quicker, especially for that section of for 93. I think that's a huge advantage of having that location being used.
Right.
Now, is there a need for, the fire, police, and town hall? I think there is. I think it's nice when you have a municipality and you have all your sectors all together.
I think it's one-stop shopping. I mean,
Yeah.
So townsfolk want to come to do business at town hall and suddenly have something they'd like to talk to the PD about or talk to the fire chief or whoever's on duty. It's right there at one stop, so. And I think there's a lot of examples in New Hampshire that have been recently built that we could quickly, if we're on that mission, we could quickly ask to go look at or maybe already familiar with, and
Build a very new safety complex.
who's that?
Twin Mountain did.
Yeah. And I think that is a police fire town hall complex, I believe. I have not been up to see it, but I've heard that.
They're not letting people.
The town hall is a separate building.
What's that?
The town hall is a separate building.
It is, okay,
Yeah.
And they're not letting people in to look at it right now anyway, so.
because of COVID. Yeah.
I made phone calls and they talked a lot, willing to talk about it, but couldn't go see it.
Tammy, what do you think? I mean, you've been around here for a long time. What do you think about all 3 departments merging together in one facility?
I wish that almost 5 acres at the bottom of the hill was one piece. However, not where it's not one piece. I'd love to see police and fire near the highway and the town hall and that other 2-acre piece of land, simply so that we don't outgrow it too fast.
Right.
That, with parking and meeting space and everything, offices and storage and everything else, my fear is that we run out, same thing happens as with the fire department right now. We just run out of space. There's no more space to build another room or to expand or do anything. And I would hate to see that happen too soon. There are 2 really good pieces of property there. I don't see why we couldn't put police and fire against the interstate so they have that access. And then town hall, right across Mansion Hill Road, right next door, literally, on their own piece, so that there's leaving building entity room for expansion if they need to. That's my thought. I
Jim
think
and Deb, what do you think?
I love the idea.
Yeah, and as far as changing Mansion Hill Road right now, on Edmond's side of Mansion Hill Road is a culvert under the road.
Yeah.
That's for the overflow water that comes across from the daycare center. They
Yeah.
also just put another culvert under the road just up the street, but that still gets an awful lot of water.
Yeah,
And it dumps into the brook that runs under East Spur Road and down through my place. If you would have changed the road back to where it was, you'd lose all that drainage
Right.
area.
yeah. So that's probably a good point is to make use of those lots as configured into 2 lots. But other than that, the town, we really, we couldn't safely section off, and it wouldn't be practical to section off even some of the parkland that we were, down at Riverfront Park, because there's a lot of issues there and it's just not the place you'd want to put a town hall, fire station. Other than that, the town would have to buy land somewhere. So
Okay,
that-
those are the only 2 areas of land that town owns.
of any size, we've got teeny little, 1/4 acre this and.
Yeah.
That we don't have any, that is the only sizable property that the town owns and has control of.
Yeah, and the skate park property is already spoken for.
Yeah, that's true.
And is that in the floodplain? That's also in the floodplain too, right?
Some of the skate park,
Yeah.
some of it is, so, but the part that we're building into the skate park is up
It's
out of
up,
it, but
yeah.
all the trails will be down in a floodplain, that's fine,
So, and we come to the conclusion that we have that one area, and we'll concentrate on that one area.
2 areas.
2 areas, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Off of Paul.
Well, I mean, unless, I don't know, obviously there's land on Route 3 that hasn't been developed yet. It would have to be purchased. You'd have to go into negotiations with private,
It's probably too far off the beat.
I think that's getting outside, but if you look around town, there's not a lot of the large acres of land that would, again, put a town hall, fire station, police station in a location that's easily accessible by, the citizenry.
have to go purchase a piece of land if we already own one that is sufficient. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Okay,
And
I
we
would
do-
have
I think you're pretty locked into that. I do.
And the current town building is not worthless. I mean, once everything is said and done and moved, there are other properties around there that have talked about possibly selling it for over, the corner there where the nail place is.
Yeah.
Yep.
You could entertain a 1.5, I think, for all of those buildings on that corner. And I think the town hall pieces would be more desirable than that, in my own opinion. So,
Well, I know I've had, person that talked to me didn't want to even ever be mentioned, but there'd be a lot of interest in this.
Yeah.
This building if it ever became available, a lot.
absolutely. The only question anybody's ever asked me about it was, does the municipal parking requirement go with the deed?
Yeah, the
Right.
selectmen would have to shake that out, but that's,
That- putting the cart before the horse. But to offset some of the cost of building a new municipal complex, part of that could be offset with the sale of the current
And to
town.
be honest, if you move the fire station, don't forget, that's a decent, for the town of Lincoln, that's a decent sized lot right there.
Yeah. And I think that's a big selling point too. If we can show that we can generate revenue from the sales of those two pieces and put towards this complex. And I think one of the biggest things is also accessibility in 93. I said that's a huge thing, especially for the fire chief and the police chief. I think it's a huge selling point right there.
Yeah,
And I don't think it would be impossible. I'm sure knowing DOT, it wouldn't be a easy task, but it's not insurmountable. You could get an on-ramp there, I suspect.
Now, I know Manchester just did one when they built their new Station 4 right on 293. And
Oh.
they got one, and it only took about a year and a half to go through DOT.
Yeah, see, for the emergency stuff, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, so.
Oh, neat.
I want to back up a little bit with the fire department building, something to keep in mind. And of course, there's nothing we need to do today. Part of the library is on the fire department land.
Right.
And all of the library parking is on fire department land. So that would have to be subdivided or redivided or lot line adjustment or something there with a right of way to the library parking.
Yeah, there'd have to be a deeded access out behind the station. Yeah.
Right. And I know that the library trustees have expressed an interest in the property if the town if is no longer there, the library wants it, which is something that, should be discussed as well. So nothing that needs to be discussed today, but something to keep in the back of your mind. There are issues with that piece of property. It's not just a sell that corner.
Right.
Yeah, and the other thing is selling town hall puts it on the tax rolls, and it's gonna be a gift that keeps giving every year in tax revenue. So over the longevity of putting this property on the tax rolls will help offset the build costs for these buildings, I would think. Because we're not paying taxes on the airport property anyway, it's owned by us. So we're just moving our operation onto something we already own and putting a Main Street, very desirable property on the tax rolls. I think.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. So I think one of the other things we need to just do is each chief needs to come up with a wish list of what they would like their facility to be. So we have an idea what we're talking about, the size of the facility, and even town hall, a wish list of exactly what you'd need for a facility. And, and then we'd have to, get together with an engineer and architect and figure out the soil first, compaction rate and drainage and everything in that area. And see if, to make sure we can even put a facility on there. Was that the old airport years ago?
Yes.
Yeah, it was I can't remember, but I guess it was a grass runway or.
Yep.
Yeah, something, yeah.
Okay. All right.
I think the first decision
Now you want
today,
to put together a comprehensive list of what they would like in a new facility with longevity. And you want Butch to have his finance, town clerk, and planning departments do the same for a municipal building, correct?
Yes.
But you also want to do that, express it in the next 20 years if you want. Don't
Yeah,
do just what
I
you
think-
need today, but what you're going to need in 20 years from today.
yeah, I think 20 years is on the short side. Don't you agree, John? I mean, should be
Yeah, I just
20
use
to
that as a,
20 to 30.
The
Right.
50 years, I think, for buildings like that.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think Jim said it or somebody said that, 50 years from now, it's still, well, this building's still, this one's more than 50 years old. This was the garage for the paper mill back into the 30s, so 2040s. So, that's not unreasonable. Sounds a lot today, but it's not. So think
I know that
30
the new firehouses we built in Manchester, I think it was a 75-year plan.
Yeah,
And
I think that's pretty standard. Yeah.
It was 75 years. They, and some of them have been renovated. I know two of them, when I came on, 37, 38 years ago have just been renovated for the first time in the last couple years. So that's been 35 years right there.
Yeah.
And most of them are still up to standards except for the air quality and some minor changes they've done. But the
Mhm.
drainage and everything else has worked out pretty good.
So,
I want to get things done.
so we'll do that. We'll do what you just said. At what point, I think sooner than later, doesn't have to be at this meeting, or maybe it could be, is the committee committed, ready to commit to moving all 3 departments, or do you want to wait for the wish list? By getting the wish list, we're pretty much telling you, we think we should go. What do you think about that? I mean, should we document that in minutes that we're moving all 3 divisions, or
So
just?
in the minutes, should I write that this committee believes that we need a new police, fire, and town hall?
Recommends, I think recommend.
Recommend, yeah.
Recommending? And now we gotta, I mean, now we have a focus, and I like Al's idea. We go max, and then we shave off as we get deeper into this in the months and year to come as
Yep.
as we taste the waters, and it's easier to shave off than it is to try to catch up.
It'd be nice if like each department had their wish list. I mean, Chief Morris may want a firing range put downstairs. He may want an armory put down if there was a basement. Chief Beard may want, a separate room just for his turnout gear, and a shower room, and just for turnout gear, a dirty room. I mean,
Dirty room.
maybe a common prevention room. So I
Yeah.
think
Coach mentioned at the last meeting too, that having a space with a helipad.
Yeah.
I think that's
For
a
helicopter
definite.
land. Was that you, Jim, that mentioned that last meeting?
Yes. we
Yeah, well,
did.
that's what, I mean, landing dart, why wouldn't you put your dart landing spot right at the new complex?
Yeah,
I
Exactly.
mean, right next to the interstate. Why would you not do that? That makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Better
Keep it
than
plowed
going down to the school.
it's right there for picking stuff up.
It does take up real estate putting a helipad in though. Just keep that. in
Yeah,
the
but
back of your mind.
if we planned it into the complex with the 2 pieces of land, it might not be that big a deal. In other words, you can separate it from either if you're gonna build something on 2 pieces of property, then the helipad could be just wound into one of them,
Well, have state police landing there every now and then too.
Yeah, could be, you don't know.
And the selectmen can get their own helicopter.
Yeah,
Uh,
you can fly Butch in from his retirement place in the beach or whatever, yeah.
yeah.
How old is that ambulance building in North Woodstock?
What's that?
How old's that ambulance building in North Woodstock? Who's to say that 20, 30, 40 years from now, you won't be parking ambulances over there along with the fire trucks and the police department?
Well, Jim, I think you bring up a good point. That's a fairly new building right now, I think, right? It's only,
What was it?
yeah, I mean,
10 years,
yeah,
12 years old?
but it's not that's a private company, nonprofit albeit.
Oh,
You assume it's gonna be here forever, but it might not be forever.
Right.
And the natural places to run EMS out of is your fire department. So I think if you're planning for the future, you have to build in all that in the event that something happens, because people still gonna get sick, and
Right.
And I think eventually you'll see the fire department working with the ambulance service or taking over the ambulance service in a few years, or working in conjunction with them. So you'd want them to work in the same building, the same facility.
Yeah.
And I mean, they could, if it was a private ambulance service, they could even pay rent or lease part of the building. But I think you will see the fire department and ambulance service together very soon, within the next five years.
I agree.
So I think one of the best things for us to do is each chief have their wish list, and we can, review that wish list at the next meeting, and, kind of like, they can kind of estimate what they need for square footage. We kind of figure out how big this complex is going to be. do we have enough room? Do we have enough room for town hall? We're just gonna put town hall as a separate building, and maybe it's a better idea, like Tammy said, to have town hall as a separate entity on the other side over there, away from the emergency traffic.
Would we get into that, Al, and would we just put that list together? That sounds almost like an architect or somebody that's designing police fire complexes to tell us what we need for square footage,
Okay,
you know, something like that. I mean, I think if we can keep it, if we can get the list together, and at some point, we're gonna have to spend a few bucks, and I think we have some bucks in the CIP to at least start exploring. All right, taking these wish lists, what's the square footage? Even though it isn't finite, what's the cursory footage we're gonna need for building size and then the acreage to pull it off? And we probably have to go to an architect, my guess is, in order to get that done. And we'd have to pick a company or something.
right. I was just thinking, like, say, Chief Beard, he needs 75 feet for a ladder truck. So he needs a certain length for that ladder truck for that bay.
Yeah.
Or if he's gonna double park his trucks, and I'd actually like to see a drive around station where the guys aren't backing in.
Right
They
through.
go
Yeah.
one door coming out the other door. That's,
I think we all agree with that. Drive in, drive out. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
so I think that's your biggest part of the building will be the apparatus bays. So I think that was gonna determine your width of the building to start with.
Yep. Yep. And you should be able to get that from, once we decide is you're just driving around, look what's already built. It shouldn't be rocket science. We should be able to,
You can
Pull
find a
that
lot
together pretty
online
quick.
too.
I think that's a good plan. I will, speaking for the town hall, I'll task the planning department and town clerk to give me their wish list, and whatever we set up for next month or whatever, we'll be able to get that to everybody.
Hey, Ron, I just looked it up. The ambulance building was built in 2006, so 15 years.
15, okay.
Yeah, I was thinking 10 also, but.
Yeah, well, back when I was on in 2000, we were running out of the medical center.
Yeah.
Had to actually pull the mirror in to drive it in, and don't let it, backing out, you had to make sure that it was in or you cleaned it off the truck.
Clean the mirrors off, yeah.
And that happened a couple times. I remember them being in the garage, having the mirrors put back on.
Yep.
Al, the 3:00 meetings, does that work for you?
Yes, it works super.
Okay.
How's it work for everybody else? Is it?
Good.
Yep.
Good for me.
Yeah,
Good.
because I think a lot of us are busy with other committees and other meetings that usually start at 5 o'clock. So, I mean, if this meeting goes for an hour and a half, it gives us the time to have maybe a little supper or lunch or break
Mhm.
before you start your other meetings and everything.
Yep.
And I think basically we should establish, this is what, the third Tuesday of the month?
This is the third Tuesday of the month. Is that what you want to do?
I think this, the third Tuesday of every month.
But next month, the third Tuesday is the school district meeting.
Okay,
Maybe we go to the.
Skip till April, or just do it later?
Well, we could
because
do March 23rd or just skip till April. It's up to the rest of you.
The
Um,
23rd is good for me.
and what about the Chiefs? Are you guys gonna have time to come up with a wish list in
Does it-
3 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've already got some stuff started. And just out of curiosity, I'd be open to, as a group, doing a tour of this facility, just so you can really see what we're looking at. I mean, I think people know, but, you know, when, you know, I say when you're trying to sell, we have a mix of public and, you know, public safety professionals here. But to say, yeah, listen, I've been in there. They don't got any room. I can tell you that firsthand. You know, I'd be glad to give a tour from the outside in, just so you can see what we're looking at.
So Chief, can we come down individually, make an appointment with you, come down individually, meet with you and go over it?
Absolutely.
And why don't each of you that don't know the building, let's coordinate, because we'll take the same tour up here, even though most of you have seen it, but I want you to see the attic. I want you to see the stuff that the public doesn't see, the town clerk's office. So if you're gonna tour the PD and you're giving up a day or a few hours, why don't we do the whole building at once so you can see it? And also, I guess the fire station, which is, it's a box, but still should probably see it to see what we're talking about.
So when's the next meeting?
We haven't set that yet, I
Oh,
don't think.
okay. I thought I heard the
I think
23rd.
we could, would the 23rd work for everybody?
23rd for me is good.
I just think 2 months out is too far.
All right.
So
Nope,
March
20
3rd at 3 PM.
Yep, 1,500 hours, yep.
That work for you, John?
So just checking. March 3rd, you're saying?
23rd.
John.
23rd. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, I'll get that Zoom meeting set up.
And I think between now and then, at least speaking for the town hall, Al, John, Jim, and you want to set a point, come over and we'll walk around the place, throw a mask on and do it as a group of one at a time. Doesn't matter to us. Just mask up and,
Well, all the folks at the PD have already been inoculated, so.
yep. And actually the 25th, I'm getting my second shot on the 25th, so I'll be good to go.
I'm not even eligible till middle of March, so.
It's one of the good things about being old, Tammy.
Yeah.
Quickly getting there.
It has
quickly.
a few perks.
Hey, Jim has something to throw in, just food for thought.
Great.
Okay.
I didn't know if it would be of any interest to anybody. But my daughter Jessica has her master's in architecture. And she's working for Cube 3 in Lawrence, Mass. I've talked to her. She said, I can give you her email address. If you wanted to email her, she could get you in contact with the owner or whoever would be able to tell you if they're capable of doing something like this. I'm sure they are. I mean, they've done big buildings and
She just did one. in
she
Rhode
just did a
Island.
big building in Providence, Rhode Island. I don't know if that would be any interest at all.
Or if you think it would be a conflict of interest.
Well, I think, my only comment, you get info wherever you can get it, so my only comment would be, is she she's working for a firm? Is that what you said, Jim? I didn't hear all of you.
Yeah, she's working for Cube 3. is the
Okay.
Name of the firm.
My only concern is if we go forward with this, we're required to put it out,
Oh,
Bid.
obvious.
RFQ and bid,
Right.
okay, which is fine, but so I'm
But
not
she-
sure what her end goal is. If she's just trying to help dad out or whatever, and get some
No,
info, that's one thing,
she
but
said
we
she-
want to pay them if, you know what I'm saying? So
Right,
and
but
we're
she
required
said
to go out for an RFQ. That's the only thing.
She's not even sure if her company has done fire stations. and
Okay.
Stations and stuff like that. They may just say, no, not interested because we've never done it.
I think you
I
could
know
say to
they-
her,
I know
know,
they've
she
done the
could-
skyscrapers and other big projects like that, but
right, I
never
think,
know.
I don't know, I mean, from the town manager standpoint, I would just have to assure that we've done a fair process of
right, yeah.
searching when we
Oh,
need.
yes.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
just for some ideas even.
Yeah.
Yeah, she may be a good resource to just throw some ideas off you, Jim. And,
Yeah.
and you bring the ideas to us.
yeah,
Okay.
If she'll do that, if it's not a conflict of interest
Right.
for her.
no, we can get info wherever you,
Taking work away from her company.
no, yeah. Yeah, I just wouldn't want her to think because she's giving help dad and we've got the committee and stuff and then they're guaranteed to get, I couldn't
Oh, no,
guarantee
no,
they'd get the
no,
job, that type of thing.
No,
no.
no. If that was the case, she wouldn't do it.
Okay.
Is there any other new business anybody like to bring up?
I'm good.
Any
Chad,
old
Jeff?
business?
Jeff, you've been pretty quiet.
No, I've been taking notes, and while you were talking about the property, I pulled it up on Google Maps. And I recommend everyone to do that because it actually gives perspective to what we're talking about for access and directions and I think I'm a visual learner, so I'm staring at it and I'm processing it and I'm making notes as I see things. I would just recommend some others do that by next time. So when we start talking about, I see
You're freezing up on us, Jeff.
how two buildings, am I still freezing up? My internet connection is unsustainable. I don't know what that means.
We can hear you now.
Okay. Internet is kind of shoddy, I guess, right now. My point is I'm staring at it. It helps me visualize the meaningful of having two buildings versus stuffing three organizations on one side of the road. And I would recommend others look at that as well because I
It's
keep
gonna
thinking about
crowd the
parking.
place. Yeah.
Parking
agree.
is such a nightmare, and if we stuff it all in one spot, there's literally no place to park.
Right.
Anyway, I'm just throwing it out there because that's what I was thinking about.
Thank
And I
you.
think that's a great thought, separating the fire and police on one side and town hall by itself. I think for parking and just logistics of people in and out and apparatus coming in and out. PD, I think we own the property. I mean, it's already paid for. So I think that's where the community should start thinking and look at the land and do it that way.
And actually, if you think about, well, it ain't a smooth connection, there is a connection between that parcel that we'd consider putting town hall on. And you could easily have a walking path or a bike path that would go over and ties right into the community center parking with just one private residence driveway, separate them. And so it could be a good, long-term parking could be in that area where the community center and Nate stores dirt and snow now and all that stuff. So there's a good possibility there.
Is there any old business anybody like to bring up?
Good.
Any public participation?
There's no public on, so I think we're good there.
Okay.
Now, do you want these, does a committee, this is a working committee. I don't think we're required to, but we are.
Is it a study
You want
committee?
them up on YouTube?
Yeah, might as well get the community interested.
Yeah.
Absolutely put these meetings on YouTube. Yeah.
I mean, it's their product. They're the ones funding
Yep.
this, and I think they should be aware, so they're not blindsided a year into this, and we've done all this work, and all of a sudden they have no idea what's going on. And it's nice to have public participation at the end here, so that, we know what these people want. I mean, if the majority of the people in town say, no, we don't want to spend this money, or we don't think it's a good idea, I mean, we're gonna spend a year or 2, 3 years working on this committee, and it's not gonna go, look at the water meters.
Yeah. No, that's what it takes. It's usually 2 or 3, it took 3 years to get that levee repaired. So yeah, it's what this town does,
And
so.
I mean, there's some great resources in this town, and there are people a lot smarter than some of us. They may have some great ideas, and they may have, there may be some structural engineers or just people with a lot of common sense come up with some great ideas that none of us have thought about. And that,
Oh, we got-
everybody brings something to the table here.
Yeah, we got an
I'd
engineer,
love to see
retired
that.
engineer sitting on this committee, so.
I would
Yeah.
love to see the public chime in and these meetings and say, hey, what about this?
Oh, hey, why are you spending this time? We aren't interested.
I don't-
That would,
You'll get that. I truly don't.
I don't sense it
There's
either,
always
but
a few. There's always a few. But I think
Once,
yeah,
once we get a clear direction, maybe looking at doing some additional impact fees for larger buildings coming in to the town in the
yeah,
future.
I mean, there's all kinds, there's TIF, there's a bunch. We get to the point where we're talking about financing or a building and stuff, there's tons of ways to go, but
oh, sure.
first thing is what direction these
Right.
meetings, I think putting them on YouTube, I was hoping you guys would say that. I think it's the way to go.
It's a great idea.
Okay, I'm good.
Do
Perfect.
we have a motion?
Al, I'm gonna email you within the next day or two to see what you want to put on the next agenda, so we can get that up and online sooner rather than later.
Okay.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Aye.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So it's 54. Thank you, everyone.